The Premier League preview show is back, ladies and gentlemen. We got a cracking lineup of games. Liverpool versus Manchester United, with two teams got something to play for as well at this stage, which isn't always the case in this game. We've also got the title race heating up as well. Arsenal going 5 points clear. They take on Bournemouth. We have Manchester City at home to Newcastle to kick off the weekend, and much more with relegation battles and, you know what, potential staving off of relegation battles to end as well. But this is the Premier League preview show, and I'm looking forward to it. So get your seatbelts on, and let's get your popcorn ready as well. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well, and welcome back. Yes, as I mentioned about 5 times at the start of the Premier League preview show, it is back. I am back, and it's best to have, you know what, the duo back again. TED Talks, as CM calls it, Ed Educates, as Pax calls it, and, you know, whatever you call it. If it's not nice, keep it to yourself, okay? But I've got my brother Edmin right here. How you doing, man?
Yeah, all good, T. How are you?
I'm all good. Hey, especially after Arsenal win yesterday. Of course, I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get into the Arsenal game. We'll talk about it in much detail. But I am delighted. We finally won our game in hand. And sorry, Matt, he was an Everton fan within the community, but I'm happy with the revenge that we took. And yeah, a great second half display. Not so good for you yesterday, but we kind of spoke a little bit, and you wasn't really looking forward to the game as much, was you?
No, as a Wolves fan, match winners in that Liverpool team, despite the funk that they're in at the moment, are always a concern when you're a little bit toothless, especially away from home. So it kind of went how I was expecting. I was clinging on for a 0-0, would have been great for both FPL reasons and just my own heart. But couldn't quite get there in the end, and I'm sure we'll touch on it. But I also don't think that VAR goal that was struck off was foul either. So it was one of those nights. I think that it was inevitable.
Yeah, fair enough. It is one of those. And Liverpool, although they lost to Real Madrid, have been in really good form, which you'll get into as well of late in the Premier League. So, yeah, before we do get into any of the weekend's games coming up and the predictions, if you are new to the show, welcome. And then what you need to do is make sure you get your predictions in the comments section afterwards. So if you're watching live, feel free to get them in, and we'll discuss them, and we'll bring up your comment and we'll talk about it and give you a shout out as well. So yeah, appreciate you. But the regulars, you know what to do, people. Appreciate you tuning in once again. Leave a like on this stream, and share it out as well, and also get in the comments afterwards. As that really does help pushing the channel, in help us grow, and hopefully this Tereak Talks family can continue to grow as well, and we can find many newborns in relation to the family right here. But yes, people, let's give you a big hello first. We got, you know what, G Staffy herself, the OG, saying hello. Hope you're keeping good. On time or late today? What's it gonna be? You know what it is? It is late. It's because I'm here. It wasn't late last week, was it? Even though it was a pre-record, it wasn't. It's because of me, people. And you guessed it correct. Probs late. And yeah, Paxton said New T would be late. Only 9 minutes late. Who would have guessed? Exactly that. We can be later here too. Good evening to yourself, Westbird. Hope you're keeping good. Mr. Westbird, we've got both of them right next to each other, side by side in the comments, and maybe side by side at home. I'm not too sure. But good evening to yourself, guys. I hope you're keeping good. And yes, T Talks is back. Big up to each and every one of you here. And listen to Pax right there on the road to 750 subscribers. We're going to try and make 1,000. You know what? That's a big statement, right? To make 1,000 before the season ends. It's not that far now. We're 2 months away, 2 hot full months away until the season ends. But guys, we're going to try and make big targets now. So if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to have to put in the work in, and you guys are going to have to put in your work by just watching the videos and clicking that like button. So really appreciate you guys. Big up yourself, Paxton, for that. And listen to Wesberg. Crystal, smash that like button and big up the boys. Let's get into it, people. And let's start off with the first game of the weekend, which is Manchester City versus Newcastle at the Etihad. I remember this reverse fixture earlier on. It was an entertaining one. 3-3 draw. Newcastle 3-1 up. And we'll be disappointed that they didn't get the win. Alan St. Maximan had a storming game. But Ed, hit us with the records and stats, which will include that meeting between the two sides and the figures as well going into it.
Yeah, so as you're right there, T, the last game was a draw back when Newcastle scored goals. If you remember a time when they scored more than one in a game. But it doesn't read well after that for you Newcastle fans, with 4 wins on the bounce for Man City before that draw. And of course, Newcastle coming off the back of that loss last week in the Carabao Cup final that we watched together. A lot of huffing and puffing. I thought Newcastle were probably the better team on the day, but Man United were professional, I would say. But their form, 2 losses, 2 draws, and a win in the last 5. And for Man City, 3 wins and 2 draws. So the form guide definitely pushing in favour of the team that currently sit second in the table. I'll get that in there for you.
I love that. Exactly. That's still second, 5 points away, which probably the last time I mentioned that. But guys, I've just dropped a poll in the chat for you. Get voting in there. Are City back to their title winning form? As I'm going to bring you the injury news for both sides and for the home side for Manchester City. The injury list isn't too extensive at the moment. They have 2 centre-backs that are out, though, with John Stones, with this game looking a bit too early for John to return, as he did at the end of last week join partial training. So he's getting himself back after that thigh injury he picked up against Arsenal in the FA Cup. Aymeric Laporte was missing due to illness, but he should return for this game, though. So that's positive news in the defence front for Manchester City. And the only player that we know is certainly out is Stefan Ortega. So it'll be interesting to see who their backup goalkeeper will be for this one. He suffered a hand injury. So yeah, they better be hoping that nothing happens to Ederson. Otherwise, they'll be left with their third choice goalkeeper. And speaking of goalkeepers, I think, well, actually, his return date is back, actually, because it's only 1 game because it wasn't a violent conduct, even though it was a red card. Nick Pope is back for this one here. Bruno Guimaraes is out by, well, he's not out, but he's suffered that injury up against Manchester United, and it is most likely that he will be out for this game. But we have seen him make miraculous recoveries before, so that'll be interesting to see right there. And the only other injury they have is Emil Kraft, who's been a long-term injury there. So not too many on the list, but there are some important players for both sides. Ed, we'll start off with you in terms of this game. I'm going to ask you this question. Are Manchester City back, as they have hit some good form of late and they have picked up some wins, of course. And against Bournemouth, they were excellent, I thought. And they won against Bristol City. I didn't really catch that game because I kind of expected them to win. Are they back? And what's your thoughts on Newcastle as they lost that final, but they were hitting a bit of a sticky patch of form going into it?
Yeah, they're in. Starting on Newcastle, I think industrious is probably how I described them last week. They huffed and puffed a lot, like I said, and maybe Man United soaked it up and were, I think, worthy winners on the day. But I think that they just sort of, like a good counter puncher in boxing, they just soaked it all up and then hit them on the break. And anything Marcus Rashford touches at the moment turns to gold, doesn't it? So, and Casemiro was worlds apart in that game as well. So Newcastle, yeah, they are struggling. I mean, you've only got to look at their draws in the league table. When you look at it, 11 out of 23 games drawn shows a team that is difficult to beat, but also difficult to beat teams as well, if that makes sense. And I think to answer your question on Man City, I'd say no, not yet. I don't think. I think there's still definitely some holes in that defence that are there for well-oiled teams to get to. We saw Nottingham Forest, dig a dig a trench and fight their corner really well a couple of weeks ago. And obviously Haaland fluffed a chance, which is what all strikers do from time to time. But I don't see them, back to title winning, the best Pep form. But I still think, and I'll keep saying this all season, I think there's a massive transition in the way they play with Haaland up front. And I think we can see that Pep is back to his football pervert, tinkering best, really, I think, to quote myself there. I think, we saw in the Arsenal game, Bernardo Silva playing sort of left back, right wing, centre back type formation. So no, I don't think they are. And I saw the highlights of the Bristol City game, and it was just worlds apart in terms of, you could tell one team was worth as much as they spent on Haaland, so that was a professional performance, and Man City put out a very, very strong team. I don't think they're taking the FA Cup lightly.
No, of course not. As they never usually do in cup competitions. But do you know what? When I'm watching Manchester City, I do feel like they are returning. And since that Villa game, in a way, because we know that their issues have been all over the pitch, and Pep Guardiola has been trying to embed this new style. But in the last 4 games, they beat Aston Villa 3-1. They beat Arsenal, of course, on that Wednesday night in that huge game. And then they drew to Nottingham Forest, which, we've made a lot about and we spoke about it. But if I'm going to be honest, any other day, I think they win that game, given the chances that they're missing, the quality of chances. So it was one of them ones. Pep Guardiola was happy with the performance. They played well enough to win, but they didn't end up winning in the end. And of course, I'm happy about that because it's part of the reason why it's a massive reason why we're 5 points clear. And then they went away to Bournemouth and they won by 4-1. But it's not even about the results. It's how they've been playing, and they look more fluid in terms of their formation. They look like they're settling into that 3-5 in the midfield, and then the wide, and then the it feels like 3-5-3, although that doesn't actually count. It's like 3-5-2, but it feels like that, how they overload in such areas at times. With Rico Lewis coming into that central area, he's looking really good of late. They are looking a bit more stable, although they still have that leak, that edge where they look like they can concede goals. I think this is a start of a run that Manchester City will be looking to go on. And it's going to make this title race very, very interesting. Of course, it's still in Arsenal's hands. I'm not saying that they're going to win the league for sure, because Arsenal still have complete control of it. And then we've got to go to the Etihad, of course. So I do think both teams in Arsenal and Man City do have slip-ups, but I think Manchester City will be looking to go on this run here. And I think it's the perfect time, in honesty, to be facing Newcastle from their point of view, who are in a bad run of form. As Paxton says here in regards to this, about Newcastle being the better team on the day, Ed says, but more terrible take. So Pax isn't agreeing with you there. They had... What would you say in reply to that first before I'll carry on about Newcastle?
Yeah, I think to qualify my point, I think it was sort of, as I say, I think it was definitely a deserved win for Man United. But I think Newcastle, maybe when I say the better team, I think maybe the better way to phrase it is I felt that they were the most industrious. They tried very hard. They seemed to, there was a little bit more effort from their point of view, but I think that was completely deliberate on Man United's part. Like I said, I think they were soaking up the pressure, and they knew that they had the better tactics and the better, players in the best positions at the right time. Maybe by better team, I mean sort of the more busy, industrious team, because I do think the best team on the day won that cup, and I think very deserved win.
Yeah, because as I say, I agree with the fact that Manchester United, deserved to win. They always looked like they could score another goal at any other point in that game, also if they wanted to, and it was wholly set up by Erik ten Hag. And I see a lot of teams set up against Newcastle in that similar way now. We let you have possession. It's your job to break us down, and they're struggling to do that at the moment. Newcastle goals has been their issue throughout. They're defending well usually, but even that, they're starting to leak a little bit more goals. Liverpool were able to get joy against them early on, even though Newcastle started as the better side in terms of having possession, getting into dangerous areas. But they are susceptible onto that counter attack now, and their teams are almost egging them on. Whereas Manchester City in this game, it's not going to be like that, of course, but Manchester City have that X factor in Haaland, who can always score at any moment. Jack Grealish is really entering. Definitely the best period of his Manchester City career. How he's really drifting off that left, making a real impact in games. Gundogan has been a star for them. I think he's been the real key player in that central midfield. It's been more important than Kevin De Bruyne or Bernardo Silva when he's played, but even his role has changed a little bit, taking up that Zinchenko position where he comes in from that left side. He's not really playing left back, but in possession. And in transition, he fills out to that left side. And then Rodri, who I think has been fantastic. And he looks like he can always score a goal at any time. Also, one of the, that's a real key point to his game in Rodri, that he can dictate possession, move it on, and also come up with a crucial goal. So I do think that Manchester City are going to win this one. And the joy what Newcastle can get is if they can go back to themselves and how they performed at the Emirates. I'd say is sit back, you be the frustrating team, you frustrate the life out of Manchester City, and then can try and spring something on the counter attack. Bruno Guimaraes has to be fit, if they're going to win this game. Callum Wilson's form's really taken a nosedive, I believe. So if they're going to return, if he's playing, he needs to get back to his best. Or Alexander Isak, who looked positive and bright off the bench, and he looked like he tried to cause some trouble. He's going to have to show some end product, which has also been a big question mark on his game also. But I think Manchester City are going to win this. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Manchester City win for this one here. Just can't if Man City score first, it will be difficult for Newcastle to go and grab one at the Etihad. But what's your prediction here, bro?
Yeah, mine's exactly the same as yours, T, 2-0. I see it being a relatively professional 2-0 Man City at home. Yeah. And my biggest fear, probably the last point on Newcastle, is watching that League Cup final. There was shades of Wolves this season when Adama Traore plays, but Alan Saint-Maximin. The tactics is with Wolves, it's always left to right. You hit Adama, that's the tactic. I think teams, when they have these mercurial wingers like Adama Traore, like Alan Saint-Maximin, sometimes look too much for them to kind of do their thing with their pace. In Saint-Maximin's case, but much more ball skill, but obviously not quite as physically intimidating. And I think sometimes that can be an overload on that one particular tactic. And on the break, maybe away from home against Man City, there might be more chance for something like that to happen. But yeah, the only maybe other place Newcastle could get some joy is from a Kieran Trippier free kick onto, a set piece of one of the bigger lads at Newcastle. Because, as we say pretty much every week, Man City's defence still flashes to deceive at times. But yeah, I'm going 2-0. 2-0.
Yeah, interesting. I agree with that Saint-Maximin part as well. I don't even think it's a tactic coming from the coaches, but I don't think like it is at Wolves when Adama plays. I just think because the players on the pitch are like, oh, you know what, he's such a threat, and the kind of runs that they don't make runs to create space. They make runs to receive the ball. So they always want the ball to feet, and then you have to give it to them, and then they can have that spark as well.
In times of both teams in different parts of the league, but with that sort of toothless front line that they can have at times, it's an easy out ball as well for a midfielder or a defender. Hit it to the creative, fast one, and let's see if we can pick up some scraps. Like you say, I think it's often the players revert to that rather than that's probably not how Eddie Howe sets it up.
And the loss of form for Miguel Almiron is also a massive factor in that, as he couldn't really pose any much of a threat for Luke Shaw on that day. But maybe with more space in behind, he might be able to get to his brilliant best that he was at the start. Mr. Wesber says, I fancy a draw. Newcastle will park the bus and be in a gooner. I'll take a draw all day long. Absolutely. Any sort of result for Newcastle here will be massive for us as Arsenal fans, but even bigger for Newcastle too, as they do have 2 games in hand at the moment on Tottenham. And And if they are to get back in that top 4 race, they'll need. It's not a free hit because they'll need this for a confidence boost to show that, you know what, we are who we are now. Like, we have had a dip in form. We've gone through our blip, but now it's time for us to get out of it and take some confidence and move away emotionally and psychologically from that final. Newcastle form has dipped, but they have the ability to draw a game, in my humble opinion. Absolutely do. And it is certainly accurate. My humble but accurate opinion. But they will they? Is another question. Cancelo definitely going to Bayern after the loan. He's on fire over there. It's just whether they can afford him. That's always the question with any player on Premier League in terms of the wages that they'll want and how much of a transfer fee that Manchester City will settle with. Not necessarily demand, but I'll say settle with. Newcastle certainly have the team to grind out a draw, but their form has dipped recently. They don't score many goals. That's the key part, and that's what they're going to have to do. Daddy and the Don Phil in the place. I'm presuming. Newcastle will drop off a bit now, look flat before, but losing the final will be the final body blow. Not keeping the clean sheets as well as not scoring. You can look at it like that, but you can also look at it as now they can move on from that final. That was taking a lot of their attention, and a big reason why they were, weren't winning as many games or performing as well. This the age old, saving yourself even and not quite going into challenges as you would. That little slight dip in, like, psychologically, is massive for Premier League teams. And because it was their first final in a long time and their first opportunity to win a trophy in 60 years, it was big for Newcastle and the fans and everything surrounding the club. So maybe they'll be able to move on now and really give a good run at the Premier League and trying to get Champions League football. But we'll wait and see. Get your predictions in the comments below if you're watching afterwards as we move on into the next game. Still not Liverpool, Man United. We'll keep it on the chat of the title race, which is Arsenal at home to Bournemouth, of course, going into this one here. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one, please, my bro.
Yeah, so this will be only the 14th ever meeting between these two sides. And of those 14 meetings, there's only been one win for Bournemouth. And if we look there at the last 5 meetings, we have 4 wins for Arsenal and just that one draw right in the middle. Arsenal's form here doesn't have the Everton win on from last night, so it would be 3 wins, a loss and a draw. Bournemouth's form is 2 losses, 2 draws and a win, which we won't talk about, from a couple of weekends ago in the last 5 games for them.
Let's get into the injury news for both sides. For Arsenal, what we have, the home side, of course, we saw Gabriel Jesus in training. If you are an Arsenal fan, that's really been getting everyone excited. However, this game will most likely come a little too soon for him. Maybe we will see him play some under-21 games like we saw Emil Smith-Rowe play on Monday night and Jakub Kiwior before he will get any minutes onto the field for the first team. But he is back in training and he's close, very close to his recovery. But this game will most likely come too soon, and we may expect to see a return for Fulham next weekend. That will be amazing, but we'll have to wait and see there. So yeah, as Arteta said, he's doing more and more on the field. The knee's not reacting, so it's positive. We want him back quickly, but they've got to respect the doctor's timeline. So they have their internally, they have their dates, but we don't know that yet. And Arsenal's other striker, Eddie Nketiah, has been carrying something, as Mikel Arteta said and confirmed at the end of the game, at the end of the Everton game. And yeah, a lot of us Arsenal fans were thinking, you know what, this is definitely full rotation, but I'm sure there's a percentage of that in there. But he has been carrying a little thing. We still don't know what it is. He's been quite, vague in terms of his description there, but he has been carrying something. And Jorginho, who came off at halftime, wasn't feeling very well due to illness, according to Arteta, which is why he was replaced at halftime in there too. So Arsenal got a little very minor injuries at the moment, but it's a title race, so the players aren't really going to want to be facing any time away because they just might not get back into the side if they do that with how competitive it is at the moment within the team. For Bournemouth, their injury list is a little bit longer. No David Brooks, he will certainly be out, as well as Marcus Tavernier, who hasn't had a return date after he's only recently come back from an injury. And if it is a hamstring injury, most likely be a recurrence of that one. Junior Stanislas is also out, and Matthias Vina. However, they may get a return for Lloyd Kelly in Ilya Zabarani in the Football Manager sensation. That's what I'll say. Until I'll get the pronunciation of his name right, until Tariq Ray is back. But there's the injury news for both sides, of course. Ed, you know what? Before I give my thoughts on the Arsenal winning, what was your thoughts? Did you catch the highlights, or even just the importance of Arsenal winning last night against Everton?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. From all the reports that I've read and I've seen the goals, it looked like it was a sticky start, and then this is what good teams at the top of the league do: is they put the teams that are struggling, at lacking form, to the sword, and that's, maybe to spoiler it a little, that is where I'll be going with this. I think in a very similar vein with this game. I think, dare I say, it's the kind of win that champions do, where there's a little bit of a struggle at the start of the game, and it's quickly put to bed and dealt with. I think it's important that Saka continues to perform. I think he's a wonderful, incredible player that I just think is maybe bizarrely underrated by some people still. And I think it won't be long until he's some kind of global superstar. But I think to comment on Paxton's comment, I kind of agree in a way. I think Arsenal have been impressive nearly every game this season. That's why they're top of the league, 5 points clear. And this Bournemouth side, like I said in my brief roundup last week, they beat my team Wolves a couple of weekends ago, and I'm scratching my head wondering why, because they looked just as bad as Southampton did. They are, I think, a very poor side for the Premier League. A couple of new, exciting players brought in. They're bringing their youngsters through, which is something they tried to do. But yeah, I see them going down, and I see this being a relatively comfortable win for Arsenal. And I think maybe the only point I will pick up on Arsenal is you talked about Man City's run. The next 4 fixtures for Arsenal: Bournemouth, Fulham, Palace, Leeds. I think you'd be annoyed if you didn't come away with at least 10 points from that. 8 points, 9 points. Realistically, you're looking to go unbeaten with 3 of those being wins. With the teams around them and the teams that you're playing, Leeds, Crystal Palace, both at home, as well as Bournemouth, only 1 away match in the next 4 games. I think there's a very good chance that you come away with 10 points in those 4 games. And there's a lot to play for that way. But I think to Arsenal, important win. It's a win that makes leagues. It's a win that makes championships.
Absolutely. In terms of that run of fixtures, totally agree. And we are going to need to go back on that run of form. I do agree. And just my thoughts on the game. I didn't manage to catch the first 36 minutes as I was traveling home from getting my hair cut after work. So I didn't manage to catch that part. But I'm guessing I didn't miss much from what I was listening to whilst I was on my way back on the phone. Stuck it on. 3 minutes later, Bukayo Saka makes it 1-0. Excellent finish from the lad. And do you know what, guys? I want to ask you. I popped a question in the poll. It's not in regards to what I've been really wanting to ask you. So I want to ask the Arsenal fans in particular, who are a little bit older than me, and I want to ask you this: right? Is Bukayo Saka, and would you? We only got a smaller sample size compared to the rest, but is Bukayo Saka the best player Arsenal has produced? Right? It's a big question. If in terms of what the academy has produced, of course, Tony Adams is the first one that comes to mind in terms of that. And if we're going even further back, we've had even more legends that have been our great academy graduates. But And even throwing a couple of that we may have has signed from early and got through the academy. But this guy, the level that he's at right now, the reason why I asked that question is because he is in ridiculous form and he's scoring major goals at big points in games. And he has been doing that for a while. We know he's got the performance levels to take over in the big games. We spoke about his big games, goals and form and man of the match performances, etc. And moments with penalties as well. So honestly, this guy is taking it to another level. One thing that Ed's spoken about before when we've been doing these shows is, you know what, if there's one thing that he needs to work on is that right foot and making sure he can, do and get, not be as predictable, like the issue that Anthony has right now. So defenders don't just try and close him down and try and send him onto his right foot. Can he work on that in terms of shooting more than crossing? Because he's crossing with his right foot has been outstanding for a long time, and he's always able to pick out crosses and passes, but shooting in particular, and that's something we have certainly seen him improve on this season. That goal was similar to the one against Leeds. In terms of he hit it high, hit into the roof and the net, and that's actually what Arteta coaches as well. When you're in that tight angle, don't go low, don't go across the keeper because it is in short distance. You have to hit it as high as you can, and most likely it won't go over the bar because of how close that you are. So Saka hit that perfectly, and that changed the game. And then his pressing to create that Martinelli goal. So he's having big contributing moments, and teams are setting up to set up for Saka and Ødegaard and that side, and that's why we do see him get kicked and why a lot of Arsenal fans get frustrated. So I just wanted to talk about him and talk about how amazing that he is, and he's my favorite Arsenal player, not just because of what he does on the pitch. It's because of how his personality and character is. You couldn't make you can't make one better in terms of everything that you'd want: humility, maturity, and accountability also that he's always carried whilst wearing an Arsenal shirt. I thought in the second half, let me just mention Partey, when he came on, he kind of showed us what Jorginho has been brilliant, and I've been praising him, and I really love what he's done since he's come in, and he has kept the Arsenal level high, especially in possession when we're moving it and breaking it through the lines. But Partey showed why Arsenal fans were putting him up there with the likes of Rodri, with the likes of Partey, with the likes of Casemiro. Sorry, so yeah, and he came on and he was all over the place in a good way. Onto Everton like a rash when trying to win in the transition and turnovers. He completed so many regains and just did little shimmies and little bursts of acceleration through the midfield. The pass he played to Eddie Nketiah, that Eddie Nketiah wasn't quite able to get the shot. He got the shot off, but it was saved by Pickford. He was outstanding, and he's always available. I want to watch this game again because I want to see the first 36 minutes in particular and see what kind of was the issue. Was it Everton? Was it us that we looked a bit tentative or anything like that? Just to analyze that. But what I definitely want to watch in that second half is how available he is. Always showing for the ball, never hides, and that's what you need from a player like that. And he always plays them line breaking passes. So I wanted to speak about Saka and Partey in particular. But with this Bournemouth game here, Ed. Bournemouth is another team that we're facing in that's who are on the same points as Everton in that lower down the league in that relegation and dogfight down there. They're going to set up similar to Everton. So of course a lot of people are going to go for an Arsenal win. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you in terms of this one, what's your thoughts on that and about Trossard? Do you see him staying in now? Because this was something me, Moss, and Will spoke about. I certainly do think he is going to stay in and start up top until Jesus is possibly back or when the Europa League kicks in. But I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think definitely against teams that are going to set up with the bus, the plane, the car, whatever it is that they're going to try and park in front of the goal, you're going to need someone who wants the ball to feet, wants to bring other players in, whereas Nketiah is definitely a bit more of a poacher, get in behind kind of thing. So yeah, I think he has to start, especially in games like this with the using the more modern terminology, this low block, you're going to need someone who's a little bit more willing on the ball to take the ball in those situations. Not that Eddie Nketiah hides. That's not my point. It's more the ability Trossard has to take the ball, to suck players in, and to play people off. Maybe that, not false nine, but maybe that more of that playmaking centre forward role. And there's always a much better opportunity for the switch with Martinelli. A bit more natural for Martinelli to go into the middle and for Nketiah, for Trossard to go onto the left. In that, whereas Nketiah, although he can play over on that left wing, looks a little bit more out of sorts when asked to do that. I think there's a little bit more flexibility. And in a game where you are going to have teams that park the bus, you're going to need that flexibility up front and that ability to take the ball with your back to goal and to bring in players like Saka and Martinelli and a Xhaka long ranger or something that might need to happen to break them down. But I think that, I'm going to nail my colours to the mast. I think this is a 3-0 Arsenal win, and I think it might be frustrating, but not for very long. Maybe less than Everton were able to frustrate you. And then I think it'll be a comfortable, sensible 3-0 win with some tactical substitutions for Arteta to rotate his squad.
Yeah, good point with the Europa League coming back as well. I agree with you on the Trossard point, how he drifts out to the left, and it's more natural for him to do that and really link up with Martinelli than it is for Eddie Nketiah. Of course, I think it's really helped Martinelli's game, and that's why we're seeing him return back to his best, and scoring 2 goals yesterday was massive. I'll talk more on Xhaka, guys, in the Arsenal show, because as Paxton said here, the 10-hour talk is already underway. It will literally probably be a 10-hour conversation on Granit Xhaka right now, as a lot of fans are. You know what? Let's get him out. Let's completely get him done. I'm not that far. I'm not that far down the line, but there are certainly concerns and things we need to talk about in terms of his game and what he's going to bring. But we'll do that for the Arsenal show on Monday at the start of next week, of course. Or we may discuss it in a match reaction on Sunday after the Arsenal Bournemouth game. I'm going to look to bring a match reaction and the Arsenal show so that our guests, in terms of Moss, Wilf, King, or anyone else that wants to come on the show, I will make it a call-in one on Monday, so we can have plenty of things to talk about as well going into a big week ahead. So my prediction for this one, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for another 4-0 win for Arsenal. It is, as you said, I was kind of hesitant to go towards it as looking at 2-0, but I'm going to go 4 because, I just think Arsenal, if we manage to score early again, the floodgates will open. If we don't manage to score so early, it may be frustrating. And that's why Saka's goal was so important yesterday and the time he scored it. Otherwise, Everton go into that second half growing in confidence and look more of a threat. And Everton looked a threat throughout, apparently. So I still need to see the first 36 minutes, of course. So, if we can manage to do that, which I'm sure we will be able to at home, Saturday, 3:00 kickoff, the fans will be there, the atmosphere will be buzzing. I think we'll be able to win this one 4-0. Saka and Martinelli continue your goal scoring streak. There's only 3 goals off Marcus Rashford now and Martinelli in the Premier League, which is good. All competitions, Marcus Rashford's on like 26, but I'm just looking in the Premier League standpoint, and Marcus Rashford, we'll talk about him shortly as well. So I've gone 4-0. Let's see what you're saying, guys, in the chat. I asked the question to you, what about Saka? To those our fellow Gooners in the chat, is Saka the best products that come from our academy? So guys, if you're watching this afterwards, let me know your thoughts as well. It'll be interesting to see. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying. I was hoping for the 10-hour section, says Luke in here. You got almost that in that sense, but that's why I put Arsenal there first, so we could get all the chat out of the way and not be here for another 3 hours. Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, it's now official. Moss is saying they're all world class right now. I can't disagree with you on Saka, Odegaard. I know you've been saying it for a while, Moss. For me, I still need to see big moments in big games where he's doing it, where the games are tight, for me to say that. And obviously us to win a league, of course, or a big or a major trophy with those players. And the same for Martinelli also as well. We need to get 12 points out of 12 before we go to Anfield, where we historically struggle. I agree. Yeah, I think we do need to get 12 out of 12 also with Manchester City if they are to hit that run, as I said earlier. Yuvraj in the place. I think Arsenal will win quite dominantly. 4-0 Arsenal, Saka masterclass. Big up yourself each and every time. We'll get into Liverpool soon, my brother. So, yeah, thank you for that there. And I agree with that scoreline. Marseille and Adams, yep, and Saka and Emil Smith Rowe, like Luke was singing last night, as Guna PTSD is over. Yep, Emil Smith Rowe has the potential to be that, but Saka is producing right now and has been since he was 17. Crazy stat. All Saka's 10 goals this season have either took the lead or tied up the match. Exactly. That's massive. I like that stat, because that's what I'm saying. He's not doing the Lukaku goals as he had. In that sense, where
no, they're all
the third in a 4-0 win, or
he's a big game player. I think that's the biggest thing for me, and I think we're maybe a little early on whether or not he's the best ever HLM product. I think the people have put in the chat Paul Merson should be up there as well as Tony Adams. Longevity at the moment, but in terms of where he is now, I think he's a phenomenal talent.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a question you can ask, because in terms of player quality and what he's done since he's 17, and you have to remember, guys, the position Arsenal were in when this player came through. We were awful. We were shocking, and he took it over from then, and now he's leading our title charge as well, and our best at the moment. Well, this is the joint best season so far, as we're on 60 points. If you had a look at the table, I think I saw Mark Goldbridge do a video, right, and he said, you know what, like Arsenal weren't even getting 60 points towards the end of seasons throughout. He read out a list that last season we finished on like 69, so we're 9 points off where we finished last season in total, which was arguably a good season. So, yeah, it is massive in that sense. Martinelli with 11 now. Tony Adams, definitely years and years of service to the club, captain and leader, says Mr. Wesbird. Saka is a big-time clutch player now. Yeah, your star, hashtag number 7, your star boy. Wilshere could have been, of course. But, yeah, injuries, we know for him. That piece of skill from Erdegaard was amazing. that slide tackle with a back heel, it was great. It was beautiful. And Thomas Partey had a great second half. Exactly. Merson was brilliant back in his day, as was Rocky. He could become our best ever player from our academy. All his goals this season have either put Arsenal ahead or it's been an equalising goal. Exactly that. Appreciate that one, Luke. And that's why I asked the question, because I wouldn't think of players like Rocky because I didn't see them, or Merson, of course. So, yeah, interesting right there. Let's have a look, see what else we've got in here. Trossard to stay in the lineup. Martinelli looks good again because of it. Absolutely agree with you there, Mr. Wesbird. This is Wesbird. Jorginho's experience is priceless. A great acquisition to the team, but Partey, aka work event, is the whole package and takes it up to another level. Spot on. I totally agree with you that there. And I know Ed will too. Don't you, bro? I know you.
Yeah, I think the Jorginho thing at the start when you signed him is. I know there was some hurt there with Willian signing and other people like that, and when Fabregas came back to the Premier League but went to Chelsea and stuff. I understand the hurt, but he's a brilliant signing. Thomas Partey is next level. He's different gravy, but Jorginho is more than capable to fill in. What a fill-in player! I mean, it's him. If you didn't have him, you'd be leaning on Sambi Lokonga, who is doing well at Crystal Palace, playing a completely different system, completely different role to what was expected of him under Arteta. So I think, it was just it was a necessary evil to give Chelsea some money back.
Yeah, exactly that right there. Big up yourself, Shay in the place, who goes 4-0 Arsenal in this one here. I agree with you, Shay, with that one there. So we've got the predictions in here. Also, Zinchenko, brilliant. On that right wing, when he played that ball to Saka, in there, so he was great again. 3-1 to the Arsenal. Billing, maybe for them. Been very good this season, on and off of late. And Trossard, Martinelli, and Saka with the goals. Let's have a look right here. Everton were not a threat. Yep, just an honour. Yeah, faking. I heard about that on the radio, about an elbow, of course. But yeah, Alana, he likes to play it to the crowd, doesn't he? Saka is phenomenal talent, but unsure whether and ultimately the best. Well said, Sir Ed there. Big up Realist in the place. We're going to talk about you guys very soon once we get through these predictions. You're not on the back of the best team in the world, he says. Of course not. Of course not. You're not the best team in the league. Come on now. Big up my brother, though, each and every time. Right here. As Paxton says, I share little affiliation with Realist. His agendas are his own. But those are all the predictions. Guys, keep them coming as we're going to talk about the big one of the weekend now. Liverpool versus Manchester United. A game that doesn't need any hyping of its own. But the big factor is Liverpool aiming for that top 4, of course, and Manchester United trying to stay within touching distance, I'd say, of a title race and really extend the gap between them and those chasing pack in for that top 4 right there. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, you can see there. So in the last 5 games, Man United have won 2 and Liverpool have won 3. And in their history, Liverpool have won 80 of the 80 games between these two teams, and Man United have won 90. And when we look at the form here, Man United's form unbeaten in the last 5, including obviously that impressive win last week in the League Cup final with 4 wins and a draw. And for Liverpool, should include the win from last night that we don't need to talk about. So realistically, it would be 3 wins, a draw, and a loss. I think these before the games last night.
There you go, right there. The big injury news for Liverpool. It is looking better for them. It is getting better for them on the injury front, where it's only Calvin Ramsey. Well, not only Calvin Ramsey, but no Calvin Ramsey, no Luis Diaz. This game's too soon for him. Could return later on this month, just before the international break. No Thiago Alcantara. He's still out, and that's the same for him also. Could return before the end of the month. However, we could see a return to Naby Keita, who's picked up another knock. Of course, it's touch and go with him always. Joe Gomez is out with a muscle injury. He's another one that's going to be out. That's one more added to the injury list. But yeah, they've kind of got a few more players back, of course. And Arthur Melo, still, we don't know when he's going to return for the Reds. But for Manchester United, of course, they saw a change side, rotated, I'd say, for the FA Cup, but they still managed to win against West Ham. Jadon Sancho missed it due to illness, but he's got a fever. I just think he probably celebrated a bit too hard whilst he was in London, back home in London for the
a fever.
Yeah, fever, exactly, exactly that. Short turnaround from that final to the FA Cup game, so he'll be back for this game, I presume. Anthony Martial, there's no return date set on him yet with his injury, of course. Luke Shaw, though, this could be a big one. He had a small injury, and what Eric Ten Hag said, we hope it's not too bad. We have to see how it develops until Sunday because he wasn't available for the game yesterday. So, Luke Shaw, arguably Manchester United's player of the season. They've got a few in there, but one of them is Luke Shaw. He's been fantastic. We'll have to see if he's going to be in there. I think that could play a big part in predictions for people, of course. And then, of course, we've still got no Christian Eriksen, no Donny van der Beek as well. But injury news, maybe that might change some of your guys' thoughts and opinions. Maybe it won't, but we'll go to you first, Ed. We'll throw this one to you. This Liverpool versus Manchester United game, Sunday, 4:30. Who is it bigger for, would you say?
Probably Liverpool, because I think Man United are nicely kind of settled there in the top 3, top 4 bracket, which I think ideally is where they'd want to finish. And like I said in the preview last week that I did without you, that I think both Man United and Newcastle are probably a few 6 months maybe for Man United ahead of their schedule, and for Newcastle I think a whole season. I think Ten Hag's done brilliantly. And of course, Liverpool in 6th, they really need to try and get into the top 4 to keep their momentum going. To the money, obviously they've got their FSG. Are they selling? Are they not? Are they able to invest into the team as much as we all know they need? Champions League money is a big help with that, and also a big draw for players who are, coming to the end of their contracts or are willing to maybe take a little less money because they'll play in the Champions League, for instance, or bigger game bonuses, but not so big on the wages. So I think probably arguably bigger for Liverpool. Also, Liverpool at home helps sort of ramp that up as well. And I think, as I say, I think Man United one cup already in the bag. Obviously, the lesser of the 2 domestic cups, but still an important trophy. As not to get back onto Arsenal for 15 hours, but as the FA Cup was for Mikel Arteta, it settles some nerves, doesn't it? It gives Ten Hag, not that he needed any grace period, but it does give him that little kudos to lean back on if there is a lean patch at any point towards now and the end of the season. He has, he's put something else in the trophy cabinet. So I would say it's probably bigger for Liverpool. How about you?
I agree. I would say it's bigger for Liverpool and their short to medium to long term future with it being in Champions League, the money that they'll give them, and if they are to get the likes of Jude Bellingham, they need to get in that Champions League top 4. They must do so. For Manchester United, because it's still early in their process, a lot of the fans they're just enjoying a ride right now, which I think that's exactly what you should do. And I'm kind of jealous because I was very much enjoying the ride as an Arsenal fan, but now because we're really into it, it's less enjoyable, of course. But now, because there's no pressure on you guys. So there it is. I understand why you're doing that, and just be happy with how your team's playing, the progress that you've seen there. So, of course, you want to be within it. You want to get Man United back to the best, and you think maybe this is a time to capitalize. But it is bigger because I think top 4 is secure, and that's the main aim for Manchester United this season. But if they do win, of course, with Arsenal still yet to travel to Liverpool, to travel to Anfield, to Newcastle, and to the Etihad, they want to be hanging in and around there for if Arsenal and Manchester City do want to drop points. Also, I think this is massive in terms of, really sparking title hopes or belief for Manchester United. But for Liverpool, man, in terms of this, they're at home. And I said it before the Real Madrid game, and people, the Man United fans, of course, and everyone saying Anfield's not the place it was. They lost to Leeds, they lost to Real Madrid, and carry on. Tell me who else they've lost to this season there. Real Madrid was guys. Real Madrid, on that day they're beating anyone at home ground, and especially this current Liverpool side where we know they're in transition at the moment. But Anfield's. This is going to be a massive game for them to have their belief and kickstart. You know what? We're not in our best moment, but this crowd and the match winners, as Ed said earlier when we briefly spoke about Liverpool, they can carry us through games and they can win us. I think this is so tasty to watch. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm backing, guys, already. Apologies, my Man United fans, but I'm backing Liverpool all the way in this one. Keep you guys as far away from that title race as possible. Don't need you guys talking to me as well and trying to put pressure and watching our games and hoping us to lose. But do I see a Liverpool win, though? Ed? Your turn to go. No, it's not. It's my turn to go first.
It's yours. Stop trying to dodge the bullet. It's you.
I'm going for a draw. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going for a 1-1 draw. This game does typically end in draws as well. When it's at this point, I remember there was a period where there was so many draws going on. The home side, if there is a win, it usually goes to the home side. Man United won the first fixture earlier on in the season, and I think this is going to be a draw, but Marcus Rashford is going to cause a whole load of trouble on that left side for Man United and the right for Liverpool. But that's also Liverpool's strongest side from a creativity standpoint. And Marcus Rashford, later on in games, has less responsibility to do his defensive work. You kind of see him move into a 9 position, and Weghorst does that defensive duty. But if Trent Alex, that battle, it's not even a battle literally between those two. It's who can have the biggest influence on the game. And we know Marcus Rashford, the form of his life, he can score in those moments. But Trent, I thought, played well against Real Madrid, and he was probably picking out some wonderful passes that they just weren't able to create a chance out of. It's going to be an interesting one. 1-1, I'm going with. But Ed, what's your prediction, and how do you see this game going?
Yeah, I'm glad you listened to me, because the last 5 meetings haven't ended in a draw in this game. So I'm glad you think that these games always end in a draw when the last 5 haven't. I'm going Man United to win. I'm going 2-1. I'm riding that Rashford wave. I see him causing havoc down that right. I think Luke Shaw not being there will potentially, the counterpunch could be Trent getting some joy down that right-hand side as well. But I see Liverpool getting a goal, because as I talked about last week, and as I said before the Wolves game last night, there are just so many match winners in that team that paper over a lot of the cracks. But yeah, I'm riding the Rashford wave and the Man United wave. Ten Hag's got them playing really well, and there were some chances last night even for my team Wolves, who are demonstrably less good up front than this Man United team. So I think you can't give away half decent chances to a team such as United in this vein of form. So I'm going 2-1 United.
I hear that there. And let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat right about now. Big up each and every one of you that is locked in and tuning in right now. Let's see what you're saying. Just scrolling up to the top of them. So Paxton has put his thoughts in first. He's gone for a 3-1 Manchester United win. Rashford hat-trick right there. Smelly Liverpool says realist right there. Let's send Liverpool further into the mud. Old rivals, not at Old Trafford. Going to be a classical maybe. VVD looked good yesterday against, what did you think, Edmund? Did you think about Van Dijk?
I mean, he was all right, but he was playing up against a broken Jimenez. So, yeah. It was a good finish for his goal.
He had a big part to play with his goal.
I think Jota coming back into form is big for them. It's going to be really interesting next year with all 15 of their strikers and how that's going to work.
There you go. Not sorry this week, T. She says Paxton right there. Shay's gone for a Liverpool 5-0 win. I'm sure that's more out of a hope than actual expectation. But yeah, if last season, I think you probably would have been right. It was 4-0 though. So yeah. Yuvraj, I am very nervous. This is for the first time I'm actually scared of United at Anfield. We need to turn up, and I think we will 2-1. I just have a feeling. Yuvraj, once again, there's been plenty of times where Liverpool were poor and were probably this bad under when Alex Ferguson was there. But they managed to scrape out wins in these big games, and Alex Ferguson hated it. Going to Anfield was always a difficult place to go. So I do think you will make it difficult for United as well. So I can understand why you have that feeling. It's going to be huge, right? And yeah, there's so many key battles right there, and you're going to have to hope that United aren't on their day defensively as well. But yeah, you've got threats, man. So I can understand why you do believe that you're going to win. And of course, so we'll have to wait and see. Mr. Wesbird says Liverpool 2, Manchester United 2. High energy, score, draw. Can see that happening as well. Definitely. Shay's choosing violence, says Ed in the chat. Liverpool 2, Man United 2 as well. Nunes and Salah for Liverpool, Rashford and Bruno for United. We're about to slap you all 3-1, says realist. Man United winning by 3-1. Martial is learning to become a Dr. Street, saying, hey, I hear that. And he leaked out some of your set piece tactics as well. I saw when he was celebrating the trophy with the medical staff. All your set piece setups defensively and going forward, we're there to see. Let's have a look. That's also a big game that's happening this weekend. I think they play each other 3 times, I believe. In a short space of time, so that'll be interesting right there. Bit like the Scottish League, how they play. Celtic and Rangers always manage to play each other. Sure, Berto Carlos is great, but Malacia will do the job he has to if needed. Big up yourself, King. He says, pick up Troy Deeney and KDB on the panel. Big up yourself, my brother.
I didn't know you'd seen me play, King, so I'm surprised.
I don't play like Troy Deeney. I'm not even a striker, so I can't even use that one. There you go. Big up yourself, my bro. It's the light skin and the Birmingham and the Black Country Birmingham-ish accent sounding similar. Erik ten Hag, yep, amazing. He has been amazing for them, and he has sorted them out indeed, Moss. Let's have a look. Núñez will destroy United if he's on it. If he can, I'm sure he'll get chances. That's the one thing that you never have to ask for Núñez is, will he put them away?
Diego Forlan part make 2 for me. That's who I see when I look at Darwin Núñez. He just reminds me of Diego Forlan.
There you go, right there.
Always there. Sometimes they're flying top corner.
Yeah.
A lot of the time they don't.
Yeah, it's because he smacks them so hard. But you know what? First season, he's got like 12 goals, I believe. That's not bad so far with his first season.
Yeah,
Liverpool side.
I think he'll come good. That's not a derogatory comment. I think we saw Forlan play well after his United stint, but the industry's there and the ability's there. But sometimes it's just that end product. Like you say, there's a massive. I don't think I've seen him side foot a goal, other than his other than his lovely. He loves to do the flick between the legs for some whatever reason. That's like his secret move.
Exactly. He always smashes them. You are right in that sense. United have more trophies than Tottenham. We'll get into them, of course. Unsub just for that Tereak statement. Shameful decision. Although King's gone for 2-1 Liverpool. I hear it. Trent defensively. T, after he gets destroyed, I want no excuses. I'm not going to put any excuses for Trent defensively. I can't. But going forward, you're going to have to do a job on him as well and stopping him because he does play well going forward. Other way, I can't really say much. Uncle, congratulations on the CC. Well done. We will bag the biggest one in the Premier League. Hey, King. Oh, man. I've tried to do the humble thing, but King's thrown it all out the window. Ed, no, with his prediction there, going for United win. My brother Ed, football, not this Arsenal guy, Tereak. Big up yourself, Brush, in the place as well. As he says, anytime I've had chess going into a game against Liverpool, we've been pammed. Not an easy place to go to, and league form goes out the window in these games. Absolutely agree with that statement there. But he's confident of saying, I'm quietly confident, and he's gone for a 2-1 United win, which is the same prediction that Ed has gone for. Before we move on into the next game, we're going to try and fly through the rest of them. Guys, smash or caress that like button, and big up to the boys. Big up to yourself as well. And let's get through to Chelsea versus Leeds, which is a big rivalry in its own right between the two sides, but it's even bigger for both sides, given the positions that they are in. Relegation dogfight. But Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, last 5 games for these two old rivals, as you can see there, is that Chelsea have won 3 out of the last 5. Leeds have won 1, and there has been 1 draw in the last 5 games. Chelsea's form, Grace, if you're still watching, look away now. It's not great for Graham Potter and his men. 3 losses on the bounce with 2 draws. And for Leeds, 3 losses for them, 2 in the last 5, but with a win and a draw in there as well.
Chelsea's injury list is not as long as their squad list, but it's quite long and extensive in that sense, with Thiago Silva being ruled out for 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. That's massive for them, so he won't look to return until after the international break for them. Huge loss for Chelsea. Christian Pulisic is back in training as well as N'Golo Kante, but this game will come too soon for them as they've only just returned, so no Christian Pulisic or Kante as well. We may see a return for Cesar Azpilicueta, who had that scary injury against Southampton, but returned, and it was good to see him, and he's okay now. And he's gone through all the correct protocols in that sense, so he could return for this game here, as well as Mateo Kovacic, who missed out due to illness, and Edouard Mendy. He's still out though with that wrist injury, so Kepa will continue to start for those FPL people. For Leeds, they won't have Rodrigo until after the international break as well. When he's played, he's looked good for them. He's looked sharp, but he's just been injured all the time. Adam Forshaw is the same for him until after the international break. Pascal Struijk, Luis Sinistera, and Liam Cooper are all in that same boat as well. So quite a few injuries for both sides. Who you know what? Who Chelsea are in horrendous form as per usual. And it's for Leeds. They had that big win up against Southampton for Javi Gracia's first game. This game is massive for Graham Potter. He's been in the limelight, and it's almost been like a ticking time bomb for a lot of Chelsea fans who just want him out right now, and they don't see the future in the long term. Each game goes by, it's even bigger for Graham Potter in this sense. Ed, how do you see this game going? Do you think that this could be the final nail in Graham Potter's coffin?
That is a worry. I think I'll say my prediction now because I think it's me to go first. I'm going Leeds winning this 1-0. I think there's a few people to put it in the chat. I think I mentioned it before we went live. Fred has scored the same amount of goals since before Christmas as Chelsea have in all competitions. And that's a defensive midfielder that he's sometimes the butt of everyone's jokes, by the way, there, or a box-to-box midfielder, Fred, that is picking up as many goals as a whole football club, which I think if you've ever needed a stat to tell you 1,000 words, I think that's probably everything. I Leeds with their busy, wingers, Nantos, Somerville, Bamford's back, potentially with a bit between his teeth against his first club. Who knows? Potter. It didn't seem to fit at the time when he was appointed. It seemed like a strange appointment. And as we say all the time, Todd Bowley's come in, spent millions, probably all in the wrong area, buying everything up and ruining the transfer market for nearly every other club as he does it. And I just don't see Chelsea stopping this rot, and I don't see these players clubbing together for Potter. So I think that's another reason why they might be less than impressive over the weekend, and I don't see them scoring again, and maybe Fred can go in front of them this weekend.
That's mad. That's crazy. And my prediction, I'm actually going for a draw in this one. I'm going for a 0-0 draw. It's not looking good for Potter in this sense, and I really don't think it's entirely his fault. Of course, there's a lot of factors that are his fault in terms of, he's not even trying to go for a settled squad or even trying to really stamp his authority in that sense by dropping out some big names that that might rile up the fans a little bit, but at least that they can see a clear project and a clear process which they just cannot see at the moment. But of course, the majority of the blame goes to Chelsea. You bring in a manager that's going to go for a process and a transitional period, and you spend a ridiculous amount of money in January, which is you're going to spend that money. You expect instant success, and it's not the way that they want to cope, and the amount of players that they've got. How can one manager keep that amount of players happy? It's two Premier League teams worth of players. It's not even a question of individual quality. It's about cohesion for a lot of them. So as Mr. Westbird says here, I don't think they're going to win, but Chelsea need to win. If not, then the Ginger Action Man will get his P45. I know I said the nail in the coffin, the 60 million pounds worth coffin in that sense. So I've gone for 0-0, but let's see what you guys are saying. Ed's gone for a Leeds win by 1-0, and I've gone for a 0-0 draw here. Shay thinks Chelsea are going to pick up and try to go on a run here and start with a win against Leeds, 3-1. Paxton 0-0. I agree with that scoreline right there. Chelsea, that's the stat since November after saying goals as Fred. Even reading it out is crazy.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's mental. Get to 30 games. That's Arsenal. When we get to 30 games, it still will be squeaky bum time. Yeah, Fred better than Chelsea Football Club at the moment. This has draw written on it too. 1-1, Nyonto and João Felix with the goals right there. Chelsea have said that they're waiting to the end of the season before firing anyone. Although they could be definitely if it continued to happen, Pax, they will sack him before the end of the season if it gets too far gone like that. I don't think they will. They probably want to, but I don't think they can if it continues. Chelsea to lose 1-0, and I want them to keep Potter in, says Yovraj. Can't see Chelsea losing, but in the same breath, you can't see Leeds. You can see Leeds sealing Graham Potter's fate, regardless of the huge, ridiculous amount of money Chelsea have spent. Has spent. Potter hasn't got the experience or the people skills with such egos to sort it. I reckon he's got the people skills, that's for sure. But you can only talk to players and try and keep them motivated for so long when they realise they're not playing. And it's
I think just quickly on Chelsea, it's not conducive to a coach, that squad. Mm-hmm. You need a ruthless manager that will pick his 11 and walk out. And, the coaches will tell, here's the tactics for this particular game. But everything about Potter from his time in Scandinavia to Brighton and Swansea and everywhere along the way it's that mentality of bringing people together, making the best of the 11 that are out there, being better than the sum of your parts. And I think you can't do that with the signings they brought in. You can't expect to spend what they spent on Mudryk and then just go, well, it'll take him a while to bed in. You can't buy Badiashile, but expect him to be able to play next to Thiago Silva. There's absolutely no cohesiveness to the team. You've got players that are well over 30. You've got players that are like 6 and everything in between. It's not conducive, I don't think. It was a strange appointment at the time. It was like maybe best man available that was relatively cheap to poach from somewhere else. But yeah, it just doesn't work. And I think Potter will have a well-earned break over the summer, count his money, and wait for the next opportunity. Because I think he's a fantastic coach. I just think it's a basket case of a club that needs an egomaniac in charge of all those egos.
Absolutely, indeed. And Mr. Wesbird, I was listening to James Lawrence Alcott's new podcast on Spotify, and it was actually quite interesting. It's called Ripple Effect, and it's kind of like showing like the butterfly effects and stuff. And he said, Chelsea getting Graham Potter in could have won Arsenal the league because, of course, he left Brighton, where De Zerbi went in there, fell out with Trossard, and that's why we was able to get Trossard. And then Thomas Tuchel was sacked and brought in Graham Potter, and another manager might have wanted to keep Jorginho and try and build the squad around him and whatnot, or have more of a say to keep Jorginho. So Graham Potter has had a hand to play in both Trossard and Jorginho in being Arsenal players. So I thought that was interesting. Who have made a massive impact. So yeah, if Arsenal do in the league, thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate you there. Jose coming back, maybe. There's a massive ego for you. That will be able to get things sorted in terms of that way. And he won't mind leaving out Enzo Fernandez if he needs to. I don't think he would, but he wouldn't. If you're bringing in Jose, you have to expect that. Next game, big relegation one between Nottingham Forest and Everton down there towards the bottom. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one here, as you guys will start to get your predictions flowing in.
Yeah, so Forest Everton, as you say, a huge relegation 6-pointer. This will be the 130th meeting between these two sides. Last 5 meetings, take them as read as we do with Forest. A lot of these wouldn't have been any time in the last 20 years. So there's a draw, a win, and 3 losses. That draw was earlier on in the season. Forest form, 3 losses, a draw, and a win. I think that's exactly what you expect of a team where they are in the league. And for Everton, that should read another loss there. But it's the same. 2 wins and 3 losses in the last 5 games for these 2 teams.
There you go for their Nottingham Forest injury list. Of course, like their squad, similar to Chelsea, like their squad is long. So no Willy Bolly, no Scott McKenna, no Serge Aurier, no Taiwo Wanyi, and no Musa Niakate right there, as well as Dean Henderson, in that list also. Ryan Yates could return for this one for the home side, but their injuries are stacking up, and it could have a real impact on to this relegation battle for Everton. The main one, the big man himself, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which similar to Arteta, Sean Dyche has been a bit coy on his return because they know how important he is, and they're really trying to push him and get him as close to match fitness as possible. So we don't know if he's going to be here for this game. He might be, he might not. Sorry, guys. But what we definitely do know that Nathan Patterson won't be in for this game, as well as Andros Townsend. But James Garner could make a start, and his first start under Sean Dyche, as we saw, Idrissa Gana Gueye substituted at half-time. So Sean Dyche was clearly not happy with him there. In terms of prediction for this game, for Forest versus Everton, huge one down there at the bottom. Forest, the City ground, they're going to try and use their crowd to try and motivate and try and really inspire them for the win, because they simply don't have the players, especially at the back at the moment. Like, 3 out of about 4. About 4, at the starting of the season, Dean Henderson was starting, Aurier was starting, and then Bolly and Scott McKenna, they were starting. Yeah, they're all injured now. So 4 out of about 5 really out. But Keylor Navas has been good deputising. Well, more than deputising, coming in and starting for them, being big in their victories and they're picking up points. But do they score enough goals? Do both sides score enough goals? I'm thinking of a 0-0 right here, but I'm going to edge and lean towards a 1-0 win for Nottingham Forest. Chris Wood to score the goal against his former manager in Sean Dyche. But what's your prediction here, bro?
Yeah, I think you always have to be careful when you're predicting whether Calvert-Lewin's going to start, because there might be a difficult sneeze or something that throws his back out in the meantime. You could sniff the wrong pepper pot and all of a sudden you're losing for 2 weeks. So, it's strange. It's a strange situation with him there. I just can't see. I've gone for a 1-1. And I'm struggling to see where Everton will get that goal from. But I'm going for it anyway. Maybe, again, as I always do, maybe lean too much with my heart in terms of these teams in and around my team, hoping that a point realistically means it doesn't really upset the apple cart too much and keeps Everton away from us. Obviously, we're 4 or 3 points clear of them. So an Everton win changes things, and a Forest win makes them a bit further on. Every week I listen to you list these Forest players, and I just keep thinking championship player, championship player, championship player, and yet they are where they are in the league. Against all odds with all the players they brought in. So with them at home, with both teams striving, a win for both teams is a huge shot in the arm for their season. I see this being one where there's a lot of huffing and a lot of puffing, but I'm going with a 1-1.
Yeah, if Graham Potter wants to draw any comparisons to managers in the league, I think he'll be looking closer to home at Nottingham Forest in how Steve Cooper's managed to get a team out of this and get some results going with a huge squad. I think that one's more, similar to Chelsea's position than even Arteta or Jurgen Klopp, as he tried to allude in a press conference. Wes Bird says Forest win, agreeing with me there. And what's your prediction? Have you got a scoreline for this one here, Wes Bird?
She doesn't predict, remember?
Oh yeah, true.
Wes Bird doesn't do any predictions because the world falls in on itself or something happens. I don't quite
Arsenal
know
lose when the Wes Bird predicts. That's what it is, I think. Paxton goes for an Everton 2-0 win. Right there, so Sean Dyche to pick up a massive 3 points there. Forest win for me. Be a close one. 1-0 though. Yeah, definitely close. Can't see many goals in this one. Cue a 4-2 goal fest. DCL needs to move clubs, but maybe just too injury riddled. Exactly that. I remember when I would have taken DCL, Moss would have also at that point as well. I remember he was really championing him, but he's worse injury-wise than Martial. Shea's gone for a 3-1 Everton win. So we've got mixed score lines in here, and Moss has gone for a Forest 1-0 win over the Toffees because Luke slayed them. So Forest goal, Gibbs White, Ed's guy. Brilliant signing for them this season. So guys, get your predictions in for that one in the comments as we move on to another game and involving another not injury ridden, and they have got injuries, but a relegation candidate in West Ham away to Brighton and Hove Albion. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for this one, please.
Yeah, so the last 5 meetings reads well for Brighton from Graham Potter's better days. 2 wins in the last 5 and 3 draws. Brighton's form, 3 wins, a loss and a draw in the last 5, and West Ham with that out of nowhere 4-0 win last week against Nottingham Forest that I think even surprised some of the West Ham players, it seemed like, with their interviews afterwards. 2 wins, 2 draws and a loss in the last 5 games.
For the FA Cup quarter-finalists, they have Levi Colwill, who will be out with an injury. He won't be fit for this one, as well as Adam Lallana, who, well, another one similar to Calvert-Lewin, always injured again. We feel like there's always at least one player in each team that is like this. But yeah, Adam Lallana is certainly out as well. Touch and goal for these 3 players, whether they're going to be fit. A massive one is Solly March, and probably just as big is Pervis Estupinan as well, the Ecuadorian left back who has been suffering with a hamstring injury but could return for this one here. And Billy Gilmore, he could return into that midfield for them as well, who's not had a great time on loan at Brighton due to injuries, of course. For West Ham, they still won't have Kurt Zouma back and fit and available for this game. Maxwell Cornet, though, he could return, but he's it's touch and go whether he will be fit for this one. Vladimir Kufal is another one who's an injury doubt due to a heel injury, and one that we definitely know that will be out for a while is Lukas Fabianski, who has got a fractured cheekbone and eye socket, similar injury to what Kevin De Bruyne had in the Champions League final. And when he went to the Euros with as well last summer. How long ago was it now? It feels yeah.
I don't know. It was lockdown. Who knows?
Yeah,
2020, 2021? 2 years ago.
2021. So yeah, 2 years ago. Predictions for this one here, Ed. Of course, De Zerbi at home. Massive, brilliant job that he's done. How do you see this game going for the Hammers travelling away?
Yeah, I think Estupiñán being unavailable or potentially unavailable is something to not be sniffed at. I think he's been incredibly important to not just their defence this year, but the outlet on the left-hand side, picking up some assists from my FPL team in recent weeks as well. So it'll be an interesting one. But I think Paxton, might have put it in the comments. I'm trying to find it. That I think he summed it up perfectly. I think here with, I don't see West Ham going down, but in this particular game, I think Brighton just have too much. I think for this West Ham team that still seems a little bit all at sea at times. And I know last week was a big win, but it seemed to be a crazy 12 minutes rather than sort of a performance that deserved a 4-0. So I'm going with a 2-1 Brighton win. I just see Brighton having slightly too much, and we know De Zerbi has maybe tweaked on Potter's tactics, and now they score goals. So I'm going 2-1. And for you, are you hoping that Declan Rice just stays there? I'm going to keep it going that we have to talk about Arsenal in each game. So Declan Rice, is he your number 1 target for Arsenal this summer? Win the league or not?
Absolutely indeed, and that's also how that we prevent ourselves from doing a Liverpool where where we'll come to a point where we need to transition in that midfield from like a Partey or a Xhaka, etc. And Declan Rice will be a key figure. And do you know what? I don't even think the price really depends much on West Ham going down or staying up. I think if West Ham go down, they can still ask for the same amount of money because of how much money everyone knows the Premier League teams do have in that sense. And that sounds crazy that you could possibly spend 80 million or something for a championship player, essentially a player that's playing for a team in the championship. But yeah, Declan Rice definitely. I think that 4-0 win against Forest is big for them. No, I didn't predict that at all in the last prediction show. That was huge for them. So yeah, if they can build upon that, maybe this game is not one that they can look upon, because Brighton are tremendous. Evan Ferguson, 18-year-old. He's built like a 28-year-old. He's crazy. He doesn't even, like, he's so good. And Brighton have got a real gem in their hands that I'm sure Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, of course, will be looking at, and Liverpool are all interested in the Irish centre forward. So, yeah, what a player he is right there. But I do think Brighton are going to win. What was your prediction for this one?
2-1.
2-1 Brighton. I'm going to go 2-0 Brighton. I'm going to go for a clean sheet for them. They don't really keep many clean sheets under De Zerbi. They used to keep more under Potter, but they score more goals for them. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll take that for instead of clean sheets. Paxton's gone for a 2-1 Brighton win in here as well. And Mr. Westbird, just like our predictions, Pax and myself with me and Ed, and Brighton's gone for, and Mr. Westbird's gone for a 2-0 Brighton win. West Ham are in trouble. Forest always do the opposite of what I predict them, just like Chelsea and Liverpool do. Shea's gone for a 2-1 West Ham win. Declan Rice scoring again for the second Premier League game in a row. We got Brighton 1-0 up. Brighton to win by 1-0 up against David Moyes' West Ham, says Moss. Pax. Hope Fabianski can recover for next season. Underrated keeper in my book. He's a decent goalkeeper in all fairness. Does have a clanger in him from time to time, and not the greatest with the ball at his feet for a modern day goalkeeper. But for a team mid-table in and around those positions, yeah, very good goalkeeper indeed. Let's move on into the next game, which is Ed's mighty Wolves up against Spurs in this game here. Ed hit up the record and stats for us watching and those presenting as well, please.
Yeah, so in the last 5 meetings, doesn't read well for me. Just the one win in the last 5, with Spurs winning all the other 4. And if you do like having a bet, Harry Kane always scores against Wolves. So he even scores 25-yard curlers with his left foot against us. So that might be one to think about. Wolves' stats doesn't include the loss from last night, but it doesn't really change the order, really, with 2 losses, 2 wins, and a draw in the last 5. And for Spurs, doesn't include their surprise loss last night, you would think, with 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5 games.
Ed, bring us the injury news that you know of course. Hugo Bueno out, hamstring injury. Is there any more other injury news going into this game that you know players will be touch and go or definitely out?
Not of the main players that play every week now. So Hugo Bueno, everyone's FPL 3.9 million defender, is more than likely out and potentially out for most of the next month or so with a hamstring injury that was taken off. We don't know the extent of the injury just yet, but Aït-Nouri comes in as a more than good backup. And then in terms of other players that we have injured, they're all the mainstays that have been injured all year. So Sasa, Kaladzic, and Chiquinho, who won't be back until the end of the season either. So no, our starting 11 will probably be the same starting 11 that's played the last 2 or 3 games.
Any updates on Cunha?
He was touch and go for last night, so there's potential he'll be back on the bench. I fear it's going to be the bench, although him and Jimenez did look much better in the Fulham game with someone closer to Jimenez than he's had in recent years.
Yeah, for sure. I said it was similar to that Jota role that he had with Jimenez. I sent you a message on that the other day, and he's quality. He's quality, Cunha. For Tottenham, though, the injury news that they have, of course, no Yves Bissouma, no Hugo Lloris, and no Ryan Sessegnon until they won't be returning up until after the international break. And there could be a potential knee injury for literally Tottenham's player of the month. And who'd have said that? Literally a month ago in Emerson Royale when they brought in Pedro Porro. So yeah, he's suffering with a knee injury at the moment, so he could be touch and go whether he'll be fit into this one. Ed, massive game for you and massive game for Tottenham as well, who are trying to finish in the top 4, who have just come off the back of a defeat themselves. Yours more respectable, losing to Liverpool at Anfield. They lost to a second string Sheffield United, who are focused on trying to get into the Premier League. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of Spurs this year, and it's not because of any affiliation with you. I just don't understand. I say it every week. I'm looking at the table right now. They're 4th. I've no idea how. Don't get it. Don't understand it. Don't really like how they play. I'm not even too sure their fans enjoy how they play. I think Wolves at home, it's a big game for us. We need something out of it. Jimenez is doing his thing. He's teasing me, making me think that, 75% back to what he was before the injury. He's still an incredibly good striker. Sometimes he looks like it right now. Pablo Sarabia has come in and done really well. Dawson might be an underrated. If we stay up this season, and I am confident we will, probably an underrated signing of the season, bringing in someone of his experience and quality for a team down there that he has been. I'm going to go 1-1 with this. I think Harry Kane will score, but I think it might be a bit of a heartbreak towards the end of the game. I see Wolves picking up an early-ish goal and then trying to desperately hold on and then relenting towards the end. I'm going 1-1 and hoping that's an important point in our survival challenge.
I'm going from my heart, not my head. And actually, you know what? My head, I don't even know what my head's saying for both of these sides, but my heart is certainly has more certain in this one, and that is Wolves winning. I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolves, right? Spurs, away from home, they're not looking any good at all, really. And it's crazy. At home, they're going to beat Man City, Chelsea comfortably. And then they go away from home, lose to Sheffield United, lose to a poor AC Milan side, in all honesty. I'm just going for a 2-1 Wolves win. I don't know with Spurs. You never know which one you're going to get. With them, they are like a box of chocolates, indeed. I can't. Honestly, I know that I can't really give much more analysis because I don't know how Spurs are going to turn up. For Wolves, we know that their issue is putting the ball in the back of the net. But maybe they are performed much better. I was very, very impressed with them watching it with Jacob against Fulham, who are a very good team themselves. They were missing Mitrovic, of course. That's a big factor. But Wolves are... Yeah, it's kind of weird in your performances of late. Being so close to relegation zones is a bit worrying because you have played really well, and then for Spurs they're the opposite, who haven't played so well and they're so high up in the table. 2-1 Wolves. It's gonna, performances will prevail. Okay, XG will prevail. Right there. Paxton's gone for a 1-1 draw, same as you there, Ed. Jimenez in 89th minute equaliser. That will send the whole city into raptures. And I can't have that happening because I'm going out on Saturday evening. Please just go home early. That'll be the Wolves loss then. But Wolves 2-0 win for Shea right there. Spurs to win 2-1, sadly, says Mr. Wesbird. I'm really hoping for a Wolves win. So I'll go with that, as I don't think they will lose. But if they do, then blame me. We'll blame you, Wesbird, indeed. But Wolves 1 and Spurs 1. Raul and Richarlison maybe finally a goal. Okay, we can guarantee that's not happening. He hasn't scored a Premier League goal. One of the flops of the season?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for sure. Right there. Next game is, speaking of Fulham, they are away to Brentford. This is a West London derby-ish. And you know what? They're very close within each other in the table. This is a Monday night game, of course. Let's go through the records and stats for this one here.
Yeah, so Brentford making the most probably of Ivan Toney before whatever happens to him. This will be only the second ever top flight game between these two teams, and only the second ever Premier League meeting, of course. With that, the last 5 meetings, they're going back to Championship days. So 3 wins for Brentford and 2 wins for Fulham. And the form for Brentford, 3 draws and 2 wins, so unbeaten in 5, going about their business really nicely. And the same for Fulham, 4 wins and a draw in the last 5 games for them.
For Brentford, in terms of injury news, it's looking quite good. If for injuries, Frank Onyeka, he should be back for them for this game, as well as Pontus Jansson in this game also. And also, there's summer signing in Thomas Strakosha could also be back for them as well. To give them strength on the bench and a calmness for their backup goalkeeper if needed. Suspensions, though. We still don't know about Ivan Toney, who is yet to hear about his situation, shall we say. He gave his response. That's why it's been so delayed. But now he's going to a hearing to find that out. So, yeah, we'll wait. We'll hold up on that one there. For suspensions as well for Fulham, they've got a big one in João Palhinha. Thank you, Wolves, for him picking up his 10th yellow card so early in the season. So he's going to miss 2 games, meaning he'll miss the Arsenal game as well. See? Continuing that Arsenal link right there with all the games. Tom Kearney, he's also out of this one, as well as Niskin Skabano and Livin Kuzawa. So no news on Mitrovic, which should be good, which should mean that he could return for this game right here. Predictions for me: Brentford, Fulham at home. You know what? I'm most likely not going to watch it. But you know what? I will be.
No, you were doing the Arsenal show, right? You were doing the Arsenal show.
We're doing the Arsenal show, so that's why I won't be watching it. But I'll be keeping an eye in the background and whatnot on the scores, because both sides have been tremendous this season. And I'm sure it'll be an interesting game. Both teams play a lot of long balls as well to their focal point. So it'll be the battle of Tony versus Mitrovic. If Tony's going to be, I don't even know what that situation's saying right now. It's not very clear. But yeah, and the same with Mitrovic as well. I'm going to go for a Brentford win, whilst they're at home, whilst the crowd keeps going, keeps pushing them on. A draw, it would have been easy to pick that one. But I'm going to go for a win. Ed, are you going to sit on the fence, or are you going to go for a winner?
No, I'm going with the easy prediction. I'm going with the 1-1. You need to give me a score. You need to give me a score. Brentford to win by how many?
I'm going to go 2-1 Brentford. As Troy Deeney would say, Ed, where's your cojones?
I'm top of the predictions league, so my cojones are fine, thanks.
Hey, you see, you ready, guys? Remember what happened last season? Get that chili ready for him. Nah. What was your prediction? 1-1 draw?
1-1, yeah, 1-1.
I wasn't wanting to go for that, but no. Try to be brave, and that might leave me in pain at some part at the end of the point next season. At the end of this season. Let's go. I've gone too far back there. Brentford 2, Fulham 2. Ivan Tony brace, of course, says Paxton. 1-0 for this one. Oh, is this a 2-2 for this one? Is it that one there, Shay? Big up yourself for that one there. Brentford to win 2-1, Mr. Wesbird. This will be a cracker. I hope you're right. I hope you're bang on indeed, Mr. Wesbird, for that one there. For the predictions here. Get yours in the comments if you're watching afterwards, alongside the others, as we're into the final 2 games, which we are going to group together now, guys. So get your predictions in for Aston Villa versus Palace and Southampton versus Leicester right here. Ed, hit us with the records and stats for both of them, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, so Villa Palace, as mid-table can be for both of these teams currently. Their last 5 meetings have 2 wins for Villa, 2 wins for Palace, and the 1 draw. Villa's form, they've got a couple of wins dovetailing and on 3 losses. And Palace, it's draw central. 4 draws in the last 5 games, with just that 1 loss in there. And as for the team on the east side of the Midlands, we've gone from east to west. Southampton versus Leicester, last 5 meetings. There is a win in there for Southampton, 2 draws and 2 wins for Leicester. Southampton's form is why they're down the bottom of the league, you would argue. 4 losses and just the 1 win. That surprising double against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. And Leicester, one of the most Jekyll and Hyde teams we've seen in a very long time. 3 losses and 2 wins in the last 5.
Injury news for Aston Villa. What we do have, Philippe Coutinho is out until after the international break with a thigh injury. So that's quite big for Aston Villa right there. Robin Olsen, he's out as well. He could return for this game as their backup goalkeeper, but I'm sure we'll still see Emi Martinez start. And then, of course, long-term injuries in Diego Carlos and Jed Steer. But Diego Carlos is actually due to return this month, so he's back in training. That's huge for Aston Villa, and it could help their defence. And try and make a late run for European places if they can. But yeah, I'm sure we won't see the best of him due to how long he's been out for. For Crystal Palace, Of course, Nathan Ferguson is on this list. However, listen, guys, because if you've been listening to the channel for a long time, you know we'll always talk about
Since day one.
Nathan Ferguson. Since day one, since the start of this channel, in fact, yeah. He did play 45 minutes with the under-21s, and he's trained this week, so he's making good progress. We may see Nathan Ferguson play for Palace, and he might not be on this list as well. Wilfred Zaha could return. And he had his hamstring injury, so it's going to be they're not going to. I'm not sure how much they're going to be willing to risk him. However, this is a big game for them to try and stay out of that relegation battle and try and push themselves forward and up the table for Patrick Vieira's side right there. And Sam Johnston, he won't return until after the international break. For Southampton, their injury list is not as long either. Mohamed Salisu could return. Che Adams could also return for this game. Big pluses for them. However, too soon for Valentino Livramento and Juan Larios for them. For Leicester City, the big one, James Maddison should be fine, says Brendan Rodgers for this game coming up. And that's huge. And do you know what? As Ed said, they're Jekyll and Hyde, and it all seems to depend on James Maddison at the moment. When he plays, they tend to play much better and get a result. When he doesn't, they certainly seem to lose, and they get 0.01 XG when he's not playing. Ryan Bertrand is too soon for him, as well as Johnny Evans. And Yuri Tielemans is out for 6 weeks for them. That's confirmed by Brendan Rodgers. And James Justin won't return until literally the end of the season for them. So, predictions now is my turn to go first. No, it's your turn to go first for this one. Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. I'll give my Southampton Leicester one whilst we're on it. I'm going to go for a Southampton win. I want it to happen because I think this is probably the most intriguing relegation battle that we've had in the Premier League for a long time, and I hope it remains that way with your team out of it, of course, but plenty of others involved. And yeah, Southampton win. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Southampton win right here against Leicester. What's your prediction for the Villa Palace and the Leicester and the Southampton Leicester game?
So just to finish off Southampton Leicester, then perfect time for James Maddison to come up and look flashy and do something against an awful team, as he often does. 2-0. I'm going for a Leicester win. I think we've seen Leicester be bad. If you've got a minute, watch the FA Cup goal, the first goal that was scored against Leicester last night. It is the single worst goalkeeping positioning from a goalkeeper that isn't a Park player I've ever seen. The first goal goes in almost in the middle of the goal from about 20 yards away. The goalkeeper is almost outside of his goal. It's a bizarre positioning. I don't quite understand it. There's no need for it, Iverson. So I can see why Danny Wood continues, because it was awful. And for Villa Palace, I'm going to break Palace's draw streak, and I'm going with a 1-0 Villa win, as much as that pains my heart to say it. I just think Villa have slightly more, and with them being at home, I'm going with a 1-0 win to Villa.
Yeah, totally hear that there. I'm backing you with that, with the result. I'm going to go 2-0 Aston Villa with that win right there. Yeah, they're a funny team themselves as well, a little bit. I know they haven't been in great form of late, but that win against Everton was huge. Ollie Watkins, will he continue his goal scoring run for you there, Ed, to make it 5-5?
Well, I think I said last week that he's in one of his good streaks right now, and it was a very good finish against Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. There's the Arsenal check for this game. And he continued it with a well-taken penalty last week. So potentially against this Palace defence, who I've always been a little bit wary of all season, I think if they want to kick on, I think they need to look further back in the pitch under Patrick Vieira. I think we know they've got some interesting attacking players. So I'm going with a Villa win, and I think maybe Ollie Watkins to get that goal.
Yeah, I've gone for an Ollie Watkins goal too for them. And I don't know if I can go for anyone else, really. Aston Villa, it's only one man really scoring the goals on a consistent basis for them as well. So let's see what you guys and girls are saying in the chat as we wrap up right here. Southampton to win by 2-1 versus Leicester. They'll need that after they lost to Grimsby. Shocking. Crazy. Draw or Villa tight win, says Wesbird. Yeah, it will be a tight game indeed. But will it go for, as Ed taught us, Crystal Palace? They are the king of draws at the moment. Wesbird says, and I know Unai Emery. We know Unai Emery is the king of a 2-2. Mr. Westbird says Southampton to lose to Leicester by 2-0. Westbird's gone for a Southampton tight win right there. Buendia, not Coutinho, exactly. So yeah, Buendia is in, and he's hopefully trying to go on a good run of form after his goal against Everton. 3-2 Aston Villa. I need Watkins. Tony to score. In for the or assist in your FPL team. Hey, big up yourself there, Shay. Yeah, I've always been worried about him. That's why I've not put him in for a while. Paxton. For once, I'm thankful for international football. I can get a rest from football, not what I was saying during the World Cup. Pax, you Man United fans, fair play, because the amount of games that you guys have watched, it's been ridiculous. Like, I don't want to hit no one else, no other fan, right, could ever complain about fixture congestion with the amount of games that you've played in 4 competitions. Yeah, it's been crazy in a already truncated season. Crazy right there. Palace this season needs to actually buy quality players. Agree in the defense. Is young and slowly growing. Not good enough if they want to finish in top 10. Totally agree with that there. Leicester win if Maddison plays. I hear you. I'm with you on that. If Maddison does play, they do win. Shay's gone for a 3-1 Leicester win right there. So, guys, thank you for tuning in, each and every one of you, for this Premier League preview show. I'm back. I was ill last week, had a cold, and I'm feeling much better now. I've been able to get over it. Send your love for Tishi. She's been having this cold as well. And how is she feeling now? Is she feeling much better?
Yeah. I think everyone's a little bit run down at the moment. I think it's all over the place, isn't it? So I think it's the time of year, isn't it? Springing, so hopefully everyone will start to feel much better soon.
Exactly that. Let's hope that you don't get it, bro. Let's hope that. But yeah, guys, really appreciate you all. It's great to have you back, and yeah, keep King in your thoughts as well, guys. And I'll keep each and every one of you in our thoughts, and I hope that you're well, people. As we're entering into a new season here in the UK. It doesn't feel like it. It's very freezing right now, but yeah. I hope that you all have a good and great end to your week. Remember, get your predictions into the comments at the end of this show. Leave a like if you haven't done so already. Don't forget to tell a friend, as we're going to try and go for 1,000. I said, people, from 636 to 1,000 before the end of the season. Big push, but I'm going to try and work. I'm going to work as hard as I can to try and get that out to you guys as well. And thank you for the support you continue to show. Any final words, bro, before we wrap up?
Yeah, the preview, the preview show, we do the predictions. If you can get them in the comments, I know after the show or in the Discord, I know people put them in the comments on here, but it just goes too quickly for me to write them all down and keep it all going and do this chat. So if you can put them in the comments afterwards, and I'll update the table tomorrow with everyone's predictions now the midweek games are over. And I think Moss, Paxton, I think we've all had pretty good weeks this week, so I think it's going to get tight at the top.
There you go, right there. Not for me though, but yeah, hopefully Tisha gets better soon, and we'll smash Liverpool. So it's not going to be great Sunday. There you go. Right there. Thanks for the look. Thanks, boys, for smashing. Take care, all. Much love to everyone. Enjoyed the show, guys. Thanks. Stay safe, and appreciate you all. Take care, people. We're gonna love and leave you as Arsenal are 5 points clear. Let's go.